Welcome to another episode of Football Tailgaters, where we talk everything about the NFL, including your picks for bets and fantasy. In today's episode, as usual, I have here with me Yams, the Jets fan, Andy, the unbiased football fan, and me, Aaron, the Cowboys fan. And today's topics, we're going to talk about three things. One of them is going to be rankings. We're going to be talking our Fantasy QB rankings, what we think is our top 5 Fantasy QB rankings. Also, we're going to talk about a report that came out that, it talks a little bit about the Kyler Murray contract and how, he turns out, he's kind of forced to study a significant amount of time. We'll talk about that first. And then in between, I guess, the rankings, when we do our fantasy rankings, in between that's going to be the last topic. Our second thing we're going to be talking about is going to be Jerry Jones, speaking about, I guess, like, for what the Cowboys have been through in recent times, and especially what the situation with Mike McCarthy is going on. He's expressing, that it's going to be disappointing that, missing multiple playoff, I guess not playoff, just being successful in the playoffs. It's just a real struggle. It's hard for me to say as a Cowboys fan because it's really frustrating just reading this. But we'll talk about that for also as well. So we're going to start off with Kyler Murray and his contract. It says that, I guess it's a clause, right? I think it's called. It's saying that, he needs to study a minimum of 4 hours per week. And we're going to ask the question, is this a low blow from the Cardinals to Kyler? What do you guys think?
100% a low blow. If you look let's just start off how it all started with Kyler Murray. He was just unhappy that he didn't have a contract. And it took some time for the Cardinals to even offer him a contract. Once they did, which was crazy, that it came a report out that on the contract, he has to study film 4 hours per week so they can continue paying him his current salary. And it came out of report. Nobody knows as of yet, as I haven't seen, of where did it come out. So in my speculation, it came out from the owner. And it just goes back to the dysfunction that I've set up that the Cardinals organization has done with Kyler Murray. Like, you give him a contract to your starting quarterback, the one that you hope is going to take you to the Super Bowl. And right off the bat, with after you give him the contract, you report that he doesn't study, that you have your problems with him. So if you didn't really want him and you have all of these feelings towards him, negative feelings towards him, then just not sign him and just trade him, and you would have gotten a whole bunch of first round picks and just get a first rounder quarterback next season. This drama between the organization and Kyler Murray is just too much. I also read that Kyler Murray said a long time ago, I believe this was pre-Cardinals time, that he has the mental capacity to not need to study, that he can just see what's going on the field, and based off what the defense are giving him, he can just go off of that and maneuver his plays towards what the defense are giving him. So I bet you the Cardinals knew that's something that he has, and he doesn't really study on his own like other quarterbacks. I'll give you another one that doesn't study that much. It was Ben Roethlisberger. He was just a type like Kyler Murray that he would just play and just maneuver what the defense would give him. I'm not saying that that's the best way of being a quarterback, but I mean, Roethlisberger did win 2 Super Bowls and went to a 3rd Super Bowl, even though he lost. So it can happen. So you just have to, I trust your quarterback, and keep everything on house as well. So of course, it was a low blow to Kyler Murray.
It's just confusing to me. You sign a quarterback that's supposed to be your franchise quarterback for the organization, and then this gets leaked as if it wasn't enough. It has to be written in a contract, as if they needed to make it known to the public that I guess he lacks in the studying room. Perhaps they feel like this is some type of motivation for the quarterback, for Kyler Murray. Maybe the extra studying time will help him to read defenses, so that maybe he doesn't scramble out of the pocket immediately before, throwing it, just tossing it up there. It's just kind of, it's just weird to me. Isn't it just kind of obvious? Maybe it's one of those things that's on the contract. Like if you get the job and there's a job offer, basically it says what you need to do the job or to complete the job.
It's said that it's rare, actually. Like, it's not seen that much. From what's been reported, they consider it a rare case to have an independent study clause in the contract.
It is weird, and it's really weird to report it for everybody to know. So
after being signed,
it sounds like the owner was just didn't like
buyer's remorse.
Yeah, like
that's
a
what
little.
It sounds
yeah, it sounds like buyer's remorse exactly. So once you give him the contract and you're just feeling like negative towards him, it's like, I don't like you, but I like your talent. So we'll give you this contract, but I'm just not happy about it. So it just doesn't make sense. It's like child play here. And if I was a Cardinals fan, I would be really sick to my stomach of how I'm seeing the organization just treat its quarterback. I mean, the quarterback is the number one player on the team that you get excited for, who's going to win you the games, and this is how you treat him? Like, no, that's not how you are supposed to win and be a professional organization.
It is a low blow. But it's also kind of like a way to not let them, because they're not going to let him go there, and it has to be kind of like a compromise situation here that, okay, we'll give you this money, but you have to do this and that. And it just made sense, and it was kind of what the Arizona Cardinals were kind of forced to do. Maybe he has some kind of personality to where he just, like you said, Andy, he's shown that he's confident enough to just not study and being able to see what's on the field. And I think the Cardinals, with the case that they were working out with, maybe the coaching staff, wants him to study. Maybe they're the type to kind of force these QBs to really do their homework as usual. Because I don't even know what quarterbacks don't study. I just thought this was always like a thing for every quarterback. It was just interesting to me.
I don't know if you guys remember when Johnny Manziel was drafted for the Cleveland Browns, and well, of course the draft happens like in the end of April or early May, and the Cleveland Browns gave him the playbook, and he was actually off to Las Vegas. That's what he was doing and not preparing for the season. He was just, as a 1-year rookie, as his first year as a rookie, he went to Las Vegas, and he saw a lot of negative comments towards him, a lot of scrutiny. And I believe he took a picture of himself and in the airplane with the Cleveland Browns like playbook and saying,
"Oh, I think I remember."
Yeah, and he said something like, "It's weird that you can't take your study material wherever you go. Like you don't have the accessibility," like being sarcastic about it. Like he was going to go to Las Vegas and study over there, which we can all think it's sort of a BS there. I mean, maybe he did have some time there to study, but most of us probably think, which we could be wrong, that he was just mostly of the time partying. Imagine in Vegas with the drinking and not feeling well, and you get up and you're just going to sit down and study. Like that wasn't going to happen. And we were seeing like pictures of him with like these celebrities and just in nightclubs or pool parties. And so it just doesn't sit right.
I definitely call bluff there.
Yeah, my problem is not the clause per se. It's that it got reported and leaked out. That's my problem. If you just keep everything in-house. But like you were saying, Aaron, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's just there's not much to say, but they were kind of forced to be in the situation. And it was just, like I said, it was a compromise that they had to do. So they were just stuck on this. And I think it's fine. Yeah, it's a low blow, but I mean, it's just something that I guess they weren't comfortable with if they didn't put it in there, because they put it in there for a very good reason, and that means they're not comfortable with what he's been doing in the past. So this is just a slight adjustment to his routine, and he spoke out on it, right? I don't know if you guys saw that.
He did.
Yeah,
he did. I thought the press conference was weird. No, he just kind of went in there and kind of gave a basic background, went over his resume, what he accomplished in in high school, what he accomplished in college. He was a Heisman. Was he a Heisman? I think that's what he said. And then he just kind of went on. He said he didn't feel like he had to go over this, but he will. On top of that, I did see that he was wearing a shirt, which I think it was very. It wasn't
Easy.
the correct. Yes, it wasn't the correct shirt to be wearing. A shirt said "easy"
with the money sign.
with the money
in the
sign in the
S.
exactly.
That's like like a diss towards the organization.
Yeah,
Of course.
he's like, "Hi, gotcha."
I don't think so. I think it's just them being flashy about their money.
Yeah, and you know what? To be honest, 4 hours a week of studying, it's not much.
No, I really do think it was like a diss towards the organization because these players, and especially like the flashy ones, I'm not too sure if Kyler Murray is flashy, but they think of what they're going to wear because they know that what they're going to be wearing is going to be on national TV. So he knew, or his agent, whatever, would know, like, hey, don't wear that or whatever. So he knew when he put that on what was going to happen. So in my opinion, he did it completely on purpose. I don't blame him, but again, it's just this going back and forth between the organization and him. It feels like he's not going to be lasting that long there in this organization if they don't if they don't go to the Super Bowl. Even if they go to the playoffs, he's going to be out of there probably in the next 2 seasons. That's how I feel.
Then why not let him go then? Or why not trade him?
They
Or
just got him.
something?
They just extended him. They would look really dumb if they extend them and then just trade him. So it might happen next year or it might happen in 2 years.
So he was on his last year when they got this extension, right? This was going to be his last season, the one coming up right now?
I'm not 100% sure, honestly. I don't know. I don't know, honestly. That's a good question.
Because,
All I know is that Kyler Murray was unhappy and he really wanted his contract, like he should have. But
And like I said, like 4 hours isn't a lot. You know, if it's on his contract, that's not a lot. And he basically just went on there to also said that, you know, that it's ridiculous, that it shouldn't be. I think he said that it's being overblown, that he studies. And that's why he went back in all his accomplishments that he did.
well, if I can bring something up, there was I don't know if you guys saw, the Atlantic put up their tier of quarterbacks. And there's the number 1 tier, then the second tier, and then the third tier. I believe it's only 3. So on the first tier, they had, of course, like Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I don't remember all of them, but I believe Joe Burrow was in there, which I think is a little too early. But in the second tier, they put in Russell Wilson. So for a lot of people, Russell Wilson should be on tier 1, and for some of them, they're okay with him being on tier 2. But the reasoning of why he was in tier 2 was what was surprising to me. So for the Atlantic to do these tier of quarterbacks, they interview a lot of NFL executives, coaches, general managers, and they, based on all of the data they got from them, they put their tier of quarterbacks. And the reason that they put Russell Wilson in tier 2 is because there was some people within the organization, probably Seattle, because that's the only team that he played for, saying that he was a little bit of a, and I'm probably saying the word incorrectly, kind of like a diva-ish, that he really wanted his way, that the offense should have gone around him, which, I mean, he's the quarterback. I don't think that's a bad thing. And that he wanted his own office. So that's the reason why they put him in tier 2, which kind of like coincides with this Kyler Murray situation, because Russell Wilson wanted his own office, not just to have an office. He is a big time like studier, that he's going to be in his office to study and learn and just and be able to, I don't know, you can have individual meetings with players to show film or whatever. And that's something that the organization didn't like about him, which to me, it's kind of like, can you make these owners or general managers happy? You have one quarterback that is all about the studying and everything and give me an office, and you're like, whoa, that's too much. You're like, calm down, guy. And then you have a quarterback that's like, I'll just play based on your I don't know, whatever the defense gives me and based on my talent. It's like, no, you got to do more than that. You got to study. So it shows like you can't just make everybody happy. So there's like some place in the middle that you have to be like, okay, study, but not too much because it's too overblown, or it just looks bad within the organizations either way you go to. So I am happy that Russell Wilson did go to the Broncos. If that's how it was with the Seattle Seahawks, I'm actually surprised. I thought they were a better organization than that. If that is one of the cases, that is true. So it just goes to show you that with these quarterbacks, they're not giving the proper respect that they should be, especially since they're the captain, they're the leaders. I'm not saying that you should like give a throne to them or anything, but bring them into the coaching sessions, and to the strategy against the next opponent. They're going to be the soldiers. He's going to be the captain that's going to be reading the defense and showing that. So I would say it's kind of logical to bring these quarterbacks, unless they don't want to, then you have another issue there. But that's what I think about it.
Yeah. It's whatever. I mean, I personally wouldn't be comfortable with having Kyler Murray. I don't think he's... I don't feel like he would be a franchise quarterback. So I would be very uncomfortable. If I was an Arizona fan, I just keep hoping that, we only see his good side and never see his bad side, and this drama all kind of washes away somehow. But it's definitely kind of awkward over there right now. But we'll move on from that and I guess speak out about a situation that's not awkward or uncomfortable, but just disappointing and sad and depressing as a Cowboys fan. And, we got our special owner, Jerry Jones, saying that a season without multiple playoff wins will be a disappointment, which, you don't say, really. You don't say. That's very interesting. Great. Oh, thank you. So good. So we're going to ask the question, is Jerry putting pressure on Coach Mike McCarthy? What do you guys think?
Well, why don't you start, since you're the Cowboys fan?
I want to hear your guys' thoughts first, because
All right. Looks like Yams wants to say
it. I don't have much to say about the Cowboys. You
no, you
were
like, I want to say.
I don't know about that one.
No, look. Like, who doesn't Jerry Jones pressure though?
He's not I don't think he's known too much
yes.
of pressuring. Like who?
Everybody, everyone in the organization, to the fans. Every year there's a pressure to the Super Bowl. Come on.
How is he pressuring the fans?
The fans' pressure. No. The organization's pressure. Like, it's the media pressure. It's pressure on the Cowboys to get to the Super Bowl.
Oh, you're saying there's a lot of pressure going on all the time with the Cowboys?
Yes, all the time. So, I mean, look, I understand Jerry Jones. He time is ticking, and I know the feeling for him. I don't want to sound mean, but, the time's almost up, given his age. I know they hired Mike McCarthy. I had higher expectations, to be honest, after when they hired him. I thought they were going to do, pretty good. But after seeing the decisions he made last year, especially the playoff game with how it ended with the San Francisco, I personally would have let him go after that. I would have let him go and moved on. The only coach I saw that made a difference in the team, it's Dan Quinn with the defense. The team for the defense side did do a 180. They completely changed. They played hard for him, and that was all due to Dan Quinn. But the offense, it's still that circus in town. It's still doing those dumb decisions. It's just the Cowboys need an organization change. They just need what they used to say with the Jets last year. They need a leader of men, and Mike McCarthy isn't it.
I don't think you should ever compare the New York Jets against the Cowboys. No, I don't think that's ever a good viable.
You know what? Since I became a fan, and anytime I go see the Jets against the Cowboys, guess who wins?
The Jets.
The Jets.
With Jerry Jones saying these types of things, I believe he also said to Mike McCarthy, like, hey, I have a birthday coming up, kind of like another type of pressure. And, of course, him saying that it's going to be a bust of a season if they don't win multiple playoffs. which in my opinion, if it's a bust of a season if you don't win a Super Bowl. Basically, you didn't make it. That's the whole point of playing in this season, to get to the Super Bowl. So I guess if
For
you
the
want
Cowboys. But for other teams, there's levels of climbing up the ladder.
I say for everybody. I mean, your point is to
No,
win the Super Bowl.
because if you don't go to the Super Bowl, it's not like let's just trash the whole team.
No, of course. I'm just trying to say that, of course, you're building the team and you're trying to get there. And of course, you just say, oh, well, we did win more games than last year, so we're going somewhere, like we're getting better. And we're going in a positive way. And the Cowboys have just gone into the playoffs recently and just been in and out, in and out, in and out. Like, they don't even win games. I believe they only won one time with Dak Prescott, and that was in his first year against the Seattle Seahawks. So it's just like the same track with the Cowboys, and I think it's just the Jones family, because it seems that they have a little bit of negativity towards Mike McCarthy, which, again, why did you hire him? You hired him as the safest hire, but
he won a Super Bowl with one of the best quarterbacks, and he got carried.
He had Aaron Rodgers, like that's the big help. But anyhow,
yeah, he got gifted that Super Bowl.
Yeah, pretty much, because after that, like, he didn't win, and that's why he got let go. And then you come to the Cowboys, and he lied his way through the Cowboys, supposedly, and he actually admitted it, that he told the Jones family, oh yeah, well, I was out of coaching, I was studying the new ways of football, and blah, 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 and that's how I got my coaching job. And he was, like, all laughing, and the Jones families were, like, laughing too. I'm like, this is horrible. Like, how are you guys just, like, happy with this?
He's joking.
I don't think so.
Well, then the Jerrys are dumb. Or the Jones are dumb. The Joneses.
So what's frustrating is that I know by Cowboys fans probably are going through their head is like, fine, yeah, we're going to probably let go of Mike McCarthy, and next season it's going to be either Sean Payton, which everybody's going to, like, love that hire, or Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator. But that just takes the fact about this season, this season is just not given that opportunity. Like, I don't know if there's that too many Cowboys fans deep down inside that they feel excited about this season of how prepared this team is. They lost Amari Cooper for a 5th round, which was really strange to me. And they also lost Cedric Wilson. He was a really good wide receiver that was coming up, and they just traded him to Miami Dolphins. They still have Michael Gallup, but it looks like he's not even going to be ready for game number 1 against Tampa Bay, which is a huge game, by the way. And you are just telling CeeDee Lamb, hey, you're number 1. Again, I always think the number 1 wide receiver is always the one that shows up. So, I mean, you can say that he's the number 1, but that doesn't mean that he's a true number 1. So it's just a really annoying, frustrated situation. And Jerry Jones just throwing out this pressure, because I believe Mike McCarthy even came out in one of these press conferences and said that he doesn't like these questions. There's no questions about how is he preparing for this season. It's about his job security. And it was like, of course, man, this is the Dallas Cowboys. Like, you're just not in any whatever team. This is a team that is all over the media, is one of the most valued franchises in the whole world. Like, of course you're going to have more, like, lenses towards you. Same as Dak Prescott. He might not be, like, the top 5 quarterback, but he gets a lot of attention because he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. And in my opinion, he's doing a really good job. Dak Prescott, I'm not going to take anything from him because he's doing whatever he needs to do. But Mike McCarthy isn't. Like, they have issues with the clock management. He said that, and I believe when they lost against the San Francisco 49ers in the playoffs, he said that he felt that the team wasn't ready. Well, dude, whose fault is that? It's yours. So just with those types of comments and seeing how he hasn't really shown like a big, huge percentage of an improvement with the team, just shows you that there should they're going to probably move on. I believe they won 12 games last year, but look at the teams that they beat. It was just like awful teams. And look at their schedule this season. They have awful teams, so they're probably going to win a lot of games but come up short in the playoffs. It's just, again, the same record again with the Dallas Cowboys.
I think I saw Mike McCarthy come to a press conference wearing a shirt that says "easy" with a dollar sign on the S.
You're funny.
He's bluffing the Jones, and you get. And
I was taking you seriously for a minute there.
It was all downhill as soon as he got hired. It was the stupidest thing that the Joneses could have done. And it was a throwaway year when they got Mike Nolan because he wanted him to do a favor. He felt like he owed him. So he got him as a defensive coordinator with horrible history. But, recent history. And it was just bad. It was just bad, downhill, terrible. Year was completely thrown. He should have been out from there on. Like, it was just a huge red flag. Everything about it was just a red flag. You're getting someone who, oh yeah, he won a Super Bowl, but it was gifted to him by a great quarterback. It's that easy, that simple. So that reasoning of why he got hired because he's a Super Bowl winner is the stupidest thing, because you have to look at what he did during that time he was there. So it was just dumb. I don't know what process, what kind of logic they went off of. But they were scared if they got anyone like Lincoln Riley or anyone like what's his name, Urban Meyer. Oof. They were intimidated because it was good that they avoided someone like Urban Meyer, but it's a gamble when you try and pick up these like coaches from college and see what you can do, because he felt like the Cowboys had a good team for the playoffs, and it's definitely. They were capable of going, but not when you hire an incompetent, like unprepared coaching staff and just making silly mistakes. You can make a whole like 20-minute, 30-minute blooper reel about the stupidity that, Mike McCarthy has done with the Cowboys recently in all kinds of ways. But it's frustrating because it's just the same thing over and over. Jerry Jones just and the Jones family just can't find their footing here, and it's just very frustrating because you've gone through it with Wade Phillips, at least from recent times, not that far away. Wade Phillips, then to Jason Garrett, and also like I if I'm not wrong, when Mike McCarthy was hired, like around that time when there was like who's going to be the new Cowboys coach, Sean Payton was in the question, right? Because he hadn't received an extension, right?
I believe. Well, yeah, it was a question, but then he did receive one.
Yeah,
and
so he got shut down.
He got shut down right away. Yeah, but yeah, I agree with you with what you're saying. It's just if I'm an organization, and based on the data that I've seen of coaches coming from college, like look at the ones that we've recently seen. We've seen Urban Meyer, which that's a total disaster, an asterisk there. You have Cliff Kingsbury, which he's gotten some scrutiny from the head coach of the Cardinals, that he might be a little over his head, and he does have a team, but he just can't get there. So that's one of them. And then another one was Chip Kelly with the Eagles. That was a horrible hire. And then I couldn't believe that San Francisco 49ers, after what he did in the Eagles, the San Francisco 49ers hired him. And again, he didn't do anything in both teams. He destroyed the Eagles organization, let go of all the teams there. And then he went to the 49ers and didn't do anything either. And then got let go, and then he went back to college, and because that's what he knows to do. And then we also have the coach from the Panthers,
Matt Rule.
He's also in the hot seat. So it's like coaches that come from college, it looks like they don't have that good of a record to come in and be a head coach.
It's tough. In the NFL, it's a different game. But I think for the Cowboys, they have the coach that they need. They just haven't made him head coach.
Well,
Dan Quinn.
Well, you can say that, which maybe you're right. Because we've also heard of this happened, or this same story happened with Jason Garrett. It's like Wade Phillips might
Who's
be out
better,
the door.
Jason Garrett or Mike McCarthy? Come on, it's obvious. For me, it's obvious.
Not for me.
Aaron?
It's not obvious.
No, it's not
obvious.
obvious.
It's a very complicated situation with both of them. It's just so what I think here also as well is that the candidates that they had, it was very close-minded. It was very restricted to like the top, very popular. Oh, they could be in the NFL, college coaches, and then it was just Mike McCarthy and man, I'm trying to think of who else. I felt like there was one more that was in the running for it.
It was always Mike McCarthy. I don't remember anyone as strongly considered to be the head coach.
You see how limited those options were?
Yeah, they were very limited.
Why aren't you looking anywhere else? What are you doing, man?
Because that's
why
how
are you so restricted to it?
The NFL is like that. They have friends or lawyers, if you will, or advisors, and it's in the NFL. It's who you know. It's not who is better for the job. It's just who you know. Who do I have to pay my favor to, or who do I owe a debt to, like you mentioned.
I don't know.
That defensive coordinator.
That does happen a lot, which is
happens,
very unfortunate because even in corporations and business, like you try to hire whoever is the best candidate and not who has helped you before. That's how you people move up. I understand that, but I just disagree. You should be hiring whoever is the most qualified to be hired. Heck, I would have loved Brian Flores. If Brian Flores would have been fired the same year as Mike McCarthy, I would have yelled out that Cowboys go and get this guy so the Cowboys can finally get their Super Bowl. He is and I couldn't believe that no other organization did get Brian Flores, which is really surprising to me. But let me just say one thing about Jerry Jones. I've seen him throughout the years. Probably, I don't know, it's been quite some time, many years, decades. And when he comes to the press conference, when I started watching football, I was believing him because I was naive, right? But then everything that he was saying, that he believes in his coaches and this is the coach that's going to do the job, he has changed his mind and fired a coach within, I don't know, a few weeks later when Wade Phillips, he said the same thing for Wade Phillips when he thought that Wade Phillips was going to be doing the good job to take him to the promised land, and he didn't. And then in a few weeks, he fired him. With Jason Garrett, he did stick with him with way too long, and I mean, for that one, I just have no clue why he stuck with him too long. But like you were saying, Aaron, he did hire when Mike McCarthy was hired and he brought in Nolan. Jerry Jones was like, yeah, Nolan, he sees a bright future for him in the Dallas Cowboys. And look, he got let go. If he speaks in the press conference, I can't believe what he's saying because it's just media talk. So he can make people feel like everything is calm and cool, which I understand that. But as I've been seeing him for many years now, I can't trust anything that comes out of his mouth.
Good businessman, terrible owner of a football team to manage that kind of stuff. And I think, it's very obvious because it's one of, if not the only one that has a team without a GM. At least from my knowledge.
He's a GM.
Exactly, which is for me a huge red flag. He's just because based on his track record, what he's done in the past, he just hasn't had a good history. So why is he just so, I guess, obsessed with having all this control because he's getting all these people that he can control easily, and he won't actually hire someone competent that can, do what he wants. He wants to win the Super Bowl, but on his own terms. He doesn't want to win at all costs. He's lying. Because when he said that, when he was like, I'm getting desperate here, I need a win now. Okay, then do it. Hire the ones that you're supposed to hire. Really try then. Show us that. You're not showing us that. Mike McCarthy's still there. He shouldn't be there. He should be out already. He should have been out in the off season. He should have been off after that horrendous San Francisco game in the wild card. You shouldn't have done those things from the very first, at the very beginning when you were doing that whole, looking for coaches thing. Like, just get rid of him, throw him out if you really want to win that bad. It's all about how he wants to win on his own terms, and it's really annoying. And this team won't do anything successful until they do some kind of radical change, which is like get a GM that's competent and leave the owners away and doing the business cool stuff. Doing the $1 billion stuff that they always do, making that fancy stadium for just a terrible team that can't go to the Super Bowl. Yeah, you're successful, you're America's team, you're number one, all that kind of stuff, but you're terrible at managing a football team, dude. It's awful. It's really awful. And they won't do anything as long as he's there. It's that simple. I don't care. Like, it's not like, oh, I think Jerry's the problem. No, he is the problem, and I think maybe most of the family is. I don't know about the rest of them, but I just know that he is the problem, and they need to fix something. It's terrible, and it sucks for him.
Well, the person that needs to fix is maybe get a GM, spend some money and pay for a GM that's not the owner.
Well, the thing for me with the Joneses is just the type of culture that they have there. I've heard reports years after years that the players are like happy and with the head coach that they're not really afraid of the head coach because there's Jerry Jones that has an open door policy that players can go there and talk to him. So there's like no respect to the coach. So I don't mind him as GM because he has done a good job like getting players. He's been hitting on the draft picks recently and throughout the years, even though I'm questioning this one with the first rounder offensive lineman. But again, he shut me up with Travis Frederick and Zach Martin. But the thing is that he just needs to step aside and just be the GM and let the coach
too much
and let the coach be the coach and don't interfere.
He's doing too much.
Don't be the face. Just stay out of their way and let them.
He's big-headed and he thinks he's way better than he actually is. He's not horrible, but he has way too much control and he needs to figure out his limits, and he still hasn't, which is insane. It's been years. It's been like pretty much decades. He doesn't know his limit. He should limit himself. You should get some sort of GM. Just do what you're good at, dude, and stick to that, man, if you really want to win that bad. It's stupid.
So names that were linked to the Dallas head coach job back in when they were hiring or looking for one, it was Lincoln Riley. Isn't he a Oklahoma Sooners? You guys mentioned Urban Meyer and Dan Campbell, who's now the head coach of Detroit Lions.
I don't think he's that bad.
I don't know. Because they were number 2 overall.
Him, okay, yeah, with that team, yeah, of course. But put him in the Cowboys roster, obviously he's going to do a lot better.
Oh, and Marvin Lewis.
Been interesting.
I don't know. It's because, Aaron, they are winning the team. Like, they were 12-5 last year.
But like you said, Andy, they were trash teams.
No, I know they were trash teams. But if you get like Campbell here, they're probably going to win the exact amount of games. It's just to get to winning those playoff games. That's the frustration.
No. Not the decisions that they make. No.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? Do you not see the dumb decisions that happen?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The decisions that the coaches do at that point.
Okay,
Mike McCarthy.
Mike
McCarthy.
Yeah, and I saw the same thing with Jason Garrett. I saw the exact same thing with Jason Garrett. There's like a pattern here.
So who's calling the shots in
the Jones
during the game?
No, but
okay.
There's something going on within that organization that the coaches are just not getting these teams ready. That they're
curse.
It's because he's getting coaches that are under his control and has a lot of like power over them, and they could just be like, yeah, this is our head coach, but he's just some kind of puppet, dude. Like, that's it.
The last head coach that was a legitimately good coach in the Dallas Cowboys, which really sucks that he left right when he left, was Bill Parcells. He just didn't like how the Joneses were in their team, because Jerry Jones wanted Terrell Owens, Bill Parcells didn't want him.
Too much control.
Too
much control.
It's just too much.
That's what I'm saying. Too much control. Step aside, get someone competent to do that part. You have no business being there. It's that simple.
And Wade Phillips just won that had that really good game, really good season, because it was the team that Bill Parcells like organized and had everything up and running. And after that, they just went downhill after that. So It's been Bill Parcells, which that was, man, it's like 14 years ago. Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah, awful.
16,
So
17.
Jerry is putting pressure on Mike
16
McCarthy.
years ago. I'm sorry, 16 years ago. But go for it. I'm sorry.
It's a lot of time. He is putting pressure on Mike McCarthy, but he won't be fired until like 10 years later. I don't know. It's stupid. They're not doing anything this year. They're not doing anything as long as he's there. It's that simple. But we'll move on from that depressing topic. Well, I thought it was depressing, very frustrating, and I guess talk something more interesting like fantasy, something exciting. It's coming up really soon. We're gonna be talking about our top 5 fantasy quarterbacks. Our own opinion, not what we see on like statistics on like who's gonna be number 1, blah blah blah. Like statistically, it's just who we think is gonna be top 5 fantasy QBs. Whoever wants to go first, whoever's more excited about it. I don't know.
Well, I think the easy one here is, this is my top quarterback list. It's Josh Allen. He obviously scored the most points in a PPR league. Second, I would get Justin Herbert. Third, I would get Aaron Rodgers. 4, Tom Brady. And 5, Joe Burrow. I don't usually draft my quarterbacks early. I'm usually, during the fantasy, I'm like, hanging kind of by a thread with my quarterbacks. I don't play fantasy with the top tier quarterbacks, but these are pretty good quarterbacks. And if I'm able to land them in the later rounds, obviously this would be my order.
I think it's interesting for this year. Usually, at least I think in the past like 2-3 years almost, there's been like talks of how like you would take a quarterback in like the late first round, early second, and that would be Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. But I don't think there's anyone that level this year that could reach that level again, because you had downgrades with Patrick Mahomes' team, you had downgrades with Aaron Rodgers. The only one that's kind of still around that is, I guess, a small little downgrade with Lamar Jackson, but it's whatever. I think with Josh Allen, he's kind of like the one who's kind of stayed the same and hasn't been just as good as he has been. And I think that there's just no one that you're willing to take that high up. And I think this is going to be like a lot of QBs not being taken up.
I'd rather take like a
to.
Jalen Hurts in a 5th, 6th round if he falls there. That's me.
With your list, Yams, it makes me kind of question of how did you win last year, because your list was just like a little bit crazy for me.
What are you talking about?
Well, I guess I'm going to give you credit because you're not used to picking quarterbacks early, but there's so many better quarterbacks than picking for fantasy than Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers.
Did you see the points that they racked up?
I did. But
and then Tom Brady got Julio? Is his name Julio?
Julio Jones.
Thank you.
Julio Jones.
What do you think Julio Jones is going to do, honestly? They're going to be rotating him. He's like the third fourth wide receiver.
It's a weapon, and Tom Brady knows how to use his weapons. He's not just a regular quarterback that doesn't know how to use weapons. He's Tom Brady, and he knows how to use his weapons when given.
Yeah, and he actually gives the ball a lot in the red zone for those touchdowns too. Yeah.
With overweight Leonard Fournette, good luck.
No, it's going to be the other running back. But anyway.
If you see the stats, Josh Allen, Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady were all the highest scores in PPR leagues.
Well, may I ask where your sources?
Me researching? Google? ESPN? Fantasy Pros?
Here's my list. I have number 1, Josh Allen, just like you. Josh Allen is number 1 because he is just a gunslinger with the ball, and he also runs as well. And he just racks up a lot of points, and he does a lot of deep throws as well. Number 2, I have Patrick Mahomes. Through the years, I always thought it was either these last like 2 years, maybe Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are like close to each other. I don't know who to pick on number 1. But because Patrick Mahomes did lose Tyreek Hill, I believe that he's going to, like, his numbers are going to go a little bit lower. So that's why I put Patrick Mahomes number 2. He's still a really, really good quarterback. And he's going to just find his weapons. He still has Kelsey. He still has, gosh, I forgot his name. It starts with an H. I think Pringle left. But anyways, he has Juju Smith this year as well.
Oh, McCole Hardman.
Oh, Hardman. There you go. Hardman's going to be used, I would assume, this season way more often than he was in the prior years. So Hardman, I would put an eye on him on fantasy. Number 3, I have Lamar Jackson. Just a beast in the running game. He just does a lot of RPOs, which I love as a fantasy quarterback. He can either throw it quickly, he can run it himself, or he can actually throw it to the running back or give it to the running back. So that's why I have Lamar Jackson number 3. Number 4, I have Justin Herbert, which is basically the biggest pocket passer that I have on my top 5. I'm a huge fan of Justin Herbert. He does really good throws. He just places the ball where it needs to go to. And he has Allen, he has Williams, he has a better defense to actually help him get the ball more. So I have Justin Herbert as number 4. And number 5, I know we talked about him earlier today, is Kyler Murray. He has a better arm than Lamar Jackson, but I do say that he's not gonna have Hopkins, so that's gonna hurt him, and he's gonna be a little bit running for his life when in the pocket a little bit, but he's still a really quick running quarterback. So, and he's a really quick quarterback, and he's just going to be able to rack up those points more than the other quarterbacks that are down the list. So that's my top 5.
I think it's interesting you put Lamar Jackson up there on your list. But I'll say later why. For number 1, I'm putting Josh Allen as well because that's pretty obvious. He has a complete package for fantasy. And he's been able to perform consistently. At number 2, I then have Patrick Mahomes because, he's Patrick Mahomes. He did have a downgrade, though, but he doesn't have a terrible set of wide receivers. Unlike Aaron Rodgers. I think if Aaron Rodgers still had, Davante Adams, and if he just had Davante Adams, he would probably be on this list, but he's not. So he's not on there. I think Patrick Mahomes is able to be just as good as Josh Allen can be. And then number 3, I would put Matthew Stafford because he's just got an insane set of wide receivers with a good offensive line. Not terrible, but it's better than someone like, the Cincinnati Bengals. I think he's going to perform great with that addition of Allen Robinson. We mentioned him in the past, and he's got Cooper Kupp, one of the, if not the best wide receiver in fantasy and in the game right now. And then number 4, I would put Justin Herbert because, like you said, Andy, he is a good pocket passer, and he's got a good running back that can act also as a wide receiver, Austin Eckler. And he's got Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and I see a good future with him, and I think he's a safe pick with that one. And then with number 5, I would put Joe Burrow because he performed great last season, and I think he's gonna be better than Lamar Jackson. I don't know if that's a hot take or anything, but that would go on to me mentioning Lamar Jackson in the honorable mentions because he has been declining in fantasy numbers throughout the years because they're kind of figuring him out, and he doesn't really have anyone but Mark Andrews. So that's as simple for me as that. And I think he's not a terrible option. I think if he was available kind of late-ish, I would still pick him up, obviously, but he's probably going to be gone, and I think I'm more comfortable with someone else picking him up because I don't think he's going to have an outstanding year. I don't think he's going to outperform Josh Allen. I don't think he's outperforming Patrick Mahomes or Matthew Stafford, maybe Justin Herbert. But, yeah, that's why I would put him in the honorable mention, and then, I put also in that place Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray because they're kind of like a little bit similar style. I'm curious to see. I think Russell Wilson can be, he can be a top 5 fantasy pick, but since it's a new team, it's a really risky, I guess, pick. So I guess if that's something that was of interest, I would pick up Russell Wilson as kind of like a gamble to see if he's able to do good in fantasy. But yeah, and then Kyler Murray kind of just said the same points that I was going to say. So, but yeah, I don't think Lamar is going to be top 5 this year.
Lamar only scored last year PPR points. He only scored 253.
Well, let me just say that he was also injured.
That is very true.
Yeah, but his 2019 season was the best one, and then he went down in 2020 in numbers, and then also he got injured in 2021, but he would have performed the same way, kind of maybe just a little bit less in 2020. But that's because he still had Hollywood Brown, which isn't like a great receiver or anything, but it's good to have still. So losing him is a downgrade to some degree.
Perhaps. And then you mentioned Aaron Rodgers. No, I'm sorry, Kyle Murray. Someone mentioned Kyle Murray. He scored 310.
Yeah, that was Andy. He put him in the top 5. Yeah, so I think the safest pick here, though, like number one is Josh Allen. Pretty easy. He's been the most consistent, I think. And I think a cool pick here that, might go over people's heads like it did for you guys. You guys didn't put Matthew Stafford on there. I think Matthew
which
Stafford
which
could
one
have a good season.
You know what? Maybe I'll keep this to myself.
Disclosure that we haven't done our fantasy draft yet.
A sleeper is Matt Ryan, guys. I think definitely.
Well, you said it for me. I was going to keep that in my pocket because, he's a big time sleeper.
Well, Matt Ryan is going to be like drafted like later in the rounds. You're going to see these quarterbacks that we were talking about like taken off first. I'm just if I were able to choose a quarterback, I prefer my quarterback to be able to run and move with his legs because you do get points that way. With the pocket passing type of quarterbacks, it's more about just being a pocket passer and just throwing it and giving it to the running back, and they're not too much of a scrambler. So if you compare Matt Ryan compared to Lamar Jackson, like who's going to be scrambling more, who's going to get more yards,
but Justin Herbert got the same numbers as Lamar Jackson in 2020. Justin Herbert in 2021 got the same numbers as Lamar Jackson in 2020.
And he's not a scrambler.
So,
but that's because Justin Herbert is a monster.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I put him on the list, and I didn't put Lamar Jackson. Yeah. I think Lamar Jackson could be top 5. I think so, but
no,
I just
not anymore.
Not anymore. Exactly, not anymore. It's more of a risk now.
I wouldn't say
would
so.
You take him? Would you take him if he's available kind of late? Like if you'd be surprised if a lot of the good scrambling quarterbacks are gone.
Of course.
Would you pick him up?
Well, I'm sorry, Yams. I think that question was for you because I did have him in my top 5.
Yeah, of course. If he's still hanging there in the later rounds, of course.
Well, let me also give you another insight about why Lamar Jackson is in my top 5. My way of thinking is because he is actually proving to the Baltimore Ravens and to the NFL that he can do it. He's not holding out.
He's betting on himself.
He's betting on himself. He's not holding out. This is his contract year, and he's going to play super hard in order to show everybody what he can still do. And that, to me, is also money in the bank.
Yeah. Too bad he doesn't have anyone other than Mark Andrews, so risky.
Well, even like you said, like Hollywood Brown, he wasn't like a big time wide receiver, so I don't think that's
he gave him those big plays.
Yeah, but I mean,
he gave him those sweet points, the cherry on top points. He would perform good, and then throwing a deep ball every now and then to Hollywood Brown was like, oh dang, now he has more points.
Well, how do you know that the other wide receivers that they have are not going to be as good as he is? I mean, they got didn't they draft a wide receiver, and so it's
okay. How do we know? He's a gamble. That's why I'm saying he's a gamble. He's not a guaranteed top 5.
Well, I believe in Harbaugh, and I'm sure that they're going to figure things out and how to do it. And he's going to it's Lamar Jackson is the Baltimore Ravens. I think he's not getting too much credit of what he can do. Baltimore Ravens are nothing without him.
Yeah, what
Russell Wilson
happened? What
has better
happened to
wide
your
receivers.
boy Russell Wilson? Why isn't he not on your list, huh?
Russell Wilson has better wide receivers.
O-line.
You can even argue Jalen Hurts has better wide
Yeah.
receivers. I think he should. Honestly, he would be a surprise to me. I wouldn't count him out on being top 5 as well. It was just there were so many, but I think Jalen Hurts is also one of those that could, with the addition of AJ Brown, he'd be pretty good. Kyler Murray has better wide receivers. Dak Prescott, he has better wide receivers.
Supposedly he's going to run more this year, by the way.
I wouldn't if I were
Hopefully.
him. No, that. I will not do
I don't
that.
know.
You're risking. Nuh-uh. That's your whole season.
What are you
What's the
talking
last?
about?
What happened to the last time he ran? He broke his foot with like no contact. Just snapped.
No,
there was contact.
No, it's like a
was
little
bad tackle. It was a bad tackle. It was just unlucky. That's just something you
Bad
don't see every day.
tackle.
No, like I think what Aaron is saying is that it wasn't done malicious, but it was just a tackle that went to the...
Yes, it was just a bad angle. Like, it wasn't malicious, but it was a bad angle for it to happen. It was an angle that's not common.
Oh, look, that's crazy, but no.
Well, it's gonna be fine, I think. You got like I said, Lamar Jackson's gonna be running a lot, and he just got injured this past season, and it was just unlucky. Russell Wilson, he rarely gets injured, and he got injured, on his thumb, right? And he runs a lot as well. It'll be fine. He'll be fine. But yeah,
I have Russell Wilson rated 12 on my list for quarterbacks.
See, I wouldn't put him that high. I mean, or that low if you want to say 12. I would put him like in the top 10 for sure.
He's close.
12?
Well, there's also Ryan Tannehill.
What? No. What do you
He
mean?
scores a lot, you
No.
guys.
Okay, well, you don't
He
have
lost
AJ
wide
Brown.
receivers.
He was the star. AJ Brown is not there
Yeah,
anymore.
I know, but they also drafted some
Ryan
wide receivers.
Tannehill
And then they have Henry.
is lower than Lamar Jackson because he doesn't run as much as Lamar Jackson, and he's not as special with his legs as Lamar
Tannehill's
Jackson.
one of the last ones. No.
Yeah, I think Ryan Tannehill's one of the biggest downgrades that's gonna happen, and you're gonna see him go down below, like real down. Like, I'd rather take
Tua. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
No, but Tua will be one of the first ones gone, I think.
No, not yet. I don't think so. I think yes, there is maybe
You'll
because of
see.
the hype with Hill, but I don't think he'll be taking over like Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, or even like Lamar Jackson. But I think that he could be very good. He could be pretty cool. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm surprised you guys didn't really mention Matthew Stafford. He performed. That was his best fantasy season in recent times, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I have him in my top 10. I just like those running quarterbacks.
Unless you guys are just trying to steer away and be like, "Oh, that's my pick, and I don't want anyone to know about it." I catched on to you guys. That's exactly what you guys are doing. That's my number one pick. I'd take him high in the first round.
I would have liked to do this like after we did our fantasy, but we try to tend to do the fantasy like closer to the season because of injuries. Today there was a big time offensive lineman from Tampa Bay that actually got really hurt.
Yeah.
So those are the risks that you have when you do a fantasy draft early on, especially since training camp just started this week. So
Yeah, we don't advise doing your fantasy drafts very early on. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be exciting though. So, I mean, when would you guys recommend it, Andy? Do you have like any good times? I think it's pretty obvious though for a lot of people, but it still goes on. I think it's just people being impatient.
as long as you do it after the final week of the preseason game, I think you're in luck. And if you do it right before the last preseason game, you're also kind of safe because of the last preseason game, they usually only put no starters playing. So you're probably safe there too. But if you want to be really, really safe, it's after the final preseason game.
Yep. And we're getting closer to that time where preseason's going to start. Hopefully no crazy injuries happen during, the training camp. Very disappointing to see those injuries that go down there. Kind of like a thing that maybe they should be more careful. But I don't know. But for now, yeah, that's going to conclude for this episode of Football Tailgaters. We appreciate anyone that's made it to the end, and we hope to see you guys interacting with us on our social media, which is Football Tailgaters on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Thank you guys again for listening, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thank you.